like to advise everyone present that should the fire alarm sound, you should leave the building immediately via one of the fire exits, which are clearly signposted. The fire assembly point is in the car park. You should not return to the building for any reason until you have been advised that it is safe to do so. Can I please remind everyone, please to put your mobile phones on silent and put the phone away for the duration of the meeting, thereby avoiding interference from your iPad or with a microphone. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and therefore when speaking, please remember to speak clearly into the microphone. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to terminate or suspend recording and live streaming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceeding of the meeting. Recording and live streaming of confidential items will also not take place. To alert me as the chair of the meeting that you would like to speak, please raise your hand and wait for a roving mic to come before speaking. Please remember, if you leave the meeting for any reason, you will not be able to take part in the vote on the item that is being discussed at that time. Members of the public will be able to view the live stream of this meeting via YouTube. Please, can I request that when speaking, you make your points as succinct as possible to allow for the smooth running of the meeting. And can I also take this opportunity to remind you to be polite and treat each other with respect at all times. Thank you. Just to start off, I'd like to ask if there are any members of the public who would like to speak. Thank you.
Now. Thank you for allowing me to speak. After many months of me asking, in March this year, the Town Council agreed to ask for the path that runs by the river and the old Pound Stretchers building to be put on the definitive map. It was agreed that I would help, as I have previous experience with rights of way matters. But you now have a new member of staff, and Megan will take over this role. I'm told she has no experience in this area of administration, but I'm happy to help if necessary. I've also given a copy of part of the Highways Act about lawful and unlawful interference with highways and streets. I hope it will be helpful. I've also been told by several people there is another path that should be considered for claim, and I've indicated this to Jonathan. I hope that it will be taken heed of. Anyone who wants to fill in a witness form should do it now, as it's important to get the application in as soon as possible. As far as the footbridge is concerned, it is part of the East Dean Way, but it was never put on the definitive map, so rights of way have no claim over the surface, which might have made repairing it a better proposition. More care had been taken for its maintenance long ago, we wouldn't be in this position now. Many people have concerns about this, not just me. I still think it could have been repaired, but although there's no evidence in the many reports, it is to be pulled down, apparently. Several grant pots of money might have been accessed for repairs had we have tried, but that didn't happen. So I'm now asking that whoever is in charge of active travel, they ask for the money for the new bridge to be built. People may feel more favourably about that than they appear to feel about moving the pedestrian crossing 15 yards with all the turmoil that has caused. Active travel apparently has been around for many years, but it's only just coming to light and public attention. And may I also please add on another subject. When you're considering planting lots of trees, please don't put them too close together or they will never mature into veteran trees. Taunton Dean used to have a tree person in the days of Barbara Collier when we had an environmental department. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Councillor Deakin, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I'm happy to respond very briefly, although we might get some further information on some of your points, Brenda, but thank you for being here again, and thank you for all of your work so far on the path and on the bridge. It's much appreciated, and I know it wasn't quite as quick as you wanted it to be, but I hope it shows that we have listened to you. We are working to get that path reinstated as it should be, and I thank Marcus, our Deputy Clerk, for all of his work on doing that with you. And I think I could probably ask our team if we probably need to put another comms push out just to remind people to submit evidence, if that's okay, just so we can make sure we get as much in as possible. On the bridge itself, there's a verbal update coming later in the meeting to hear on that. And just to touch on active travel, we can ask the question of Somerset Council. It's their funds that they're holding from the government, so we can ask the question. I think it's unlikely, but happy to ask them the question. And on the pedestrian crossing, it's not just the movement of the crossing, it is a replacement of the lights as well, just so you're aware. So the lights are coming to the end of their life, so rather than just waiting for them to fail and replacing where they are, Somerset Council have said the decision to also move the crossing to a more sensible location at the same time. And on the trees, yes, we hear your advice on the trees, and we'll make sure we do what we can so that we have wonderful mature trees and that they're all able to grow brilliantly once we plant them. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Rob Isaacs, Councillor Simon Clark, and Councillor Gemma Westcott. Do we have any declarations? Oh, sorry, yes, and Councillor Simon Lester is running late. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure whether you note them or not, but I've had a message from Councillor Fran Smith, the Unitary Councillor, to apologise that she's not here tonight. She was hoping to attend.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor
I'm the admin on the Friends of Goodland Gardens Facebook page.
Sorry, Councillor Ellis, I didn't catch that.
I am the admin, or one of them, on the Goodland Friends of Goodland Gardens Facebook group.
Thank you. And would you like to say something on their behalf?
I think they're all anxiously awaiting.
Declaration of interest.
Yeah, that was a declaration of interest. So they're all anxiously waiting, whatever the update will be.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Has everyone read the minutes of the last meeting, which I didn't attend, so I read them with great interest. And is everybody happy with those minutes as a true record of what happened at that meeting? Could I have a proposer, please? Sorry, Councillor Tully. A seconder, please. Councillor Stainthorpe, and could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you very much. So moving on, could I also note the minutes and action arising from the committees shown below. The Grants Committee on the 8th of April 2024 and the Community Services Committee on the 18th of April 2024. And could I have a proposer for those, please, as well? Thank you, Councillor Packer-Hughes, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. And again, a show of hands. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Councillor Fernandez.
It's just like on my agenda, I've got a different dates. I've got the Community and Place Committee of the 25th of June 2024 and the Grants Committee of the 8th of June 2024.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and well spotted, Councillor Fernandez. So this item that was an error initially. So what we've done is attach the minutes that have been approved by their parent committee. So the June minutes are still in draft status. Yeah, they need to go back to the next meeting of those committees, and then they'll go on the full council agenda. Hope that's clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Right, next on the agenda then, you're going to receive a rather long communication from me. I'm very sorry, but I've been away a long time and I've been having a lot of different adventures. So yeah, I'm sorry it's a little bit long. I'll try and keep it as short as I can, shorten it if I can. First of all, and I just want to have just give you a quick report about our twinning visit to Königslutter in northern Germany, which I think Councillor O'Donnell will agree with me. It went very, very well. We went with a group, the Friends of Königslutter, who are a group of very lovely and friendly people, and they're looking for other friends within Taunton to be part of this committee as well. We went to stay with some fantastic people in Königslutter, which is a very beautiful town in northern Germany, and we had a very lovely time. We were treated royally. We were taken everywhere. We were looked after with great care. I discovered that these people have been coming to Taunton for 32 years, and some of them know Taunton better than I do. And they really, really love Taunton, so that's the message, I got. And so we all improved our German a bit, even Councillor O'Donnell, I was very impressed. Anyway, and then when I came back, I went to North Curry Music Festival, which was a remarkable recital by 3 professional and innovative classical musicians who've even played in the Wigmore Hall in London. And I was amazed to hear that quality of performance in deepest Somerset. And that made me wonder why we don't have a Taunton Music Festival. And this was more than confirmed when we were invited to hear and see Somerset Opera's outstanding performance of Dido and Aeneas, and choosing to hold this performance in Somerset Museum, where there is in fact a wonderful mosaic, the Roman mosaic of the story of Dido and Aeneas, was an absolute genius idea, and I thought it was a really marvellous performance. Another exciting adventure which I had when I came back from Germany was visiting a vineyard with 27 charming gentlemen who looked after me and escorted me throughout the day, the court lead. We went to the Pebblebed Vineyard in Cliff St George, and they produced award-winning sparkling wine there. They've won several awards with their sparkling wine, and I would recommend it because we did get to taste it, apart from learning how to make it. And after that, in the evening, they treated us to dinner at the racecourse, which was, of course, it was a great treat throughout the day. On Monday, June the 24th, we had the flag raising ceremony at County Hall, and this was followed by the wonderful Armed Forces Day on July the 6th. We met many armed forces personnel and their families who were proudly displaying their expertise. I was particularly impressed by the Poppy of Honour team, who are working very hard to create a wonderful monument for the country park. I'd like to publicly thank Major Ed Cullen for his kind invitation and his team's attention to detail. It was a real team effort and quite rightly attracted more than 36,000 people to Taunton. Since then, we attended the Dulverton Elite Garden Party, a fundraising event along with the Mayor of Somerset and High Sheriff and Lord Dulverton. It was an honour to be invited and sharing their concern to protect the natural beauty of their town. And it was good to learn that Bridgewater and Taunton College are assisting in this enterprise to save the lead from its deterioration. This Saturday, we also attended Selworthy School Open Day. It really is a wonderful school, and we learned how difficult it is to bring a disabled child. It really brought it home to me, and also the various charities that are working very hard to help people who are really suffering and trying to and struggling. And I was actually quite moved by this, and I'd like to give a big shout out to those charities and those people who are helping. By contrast, we also went to the Taika Festival at the Brew House and Somerset Square, which was a very, very joyful event. And a big congratulations to Jackie Clementines and his team for organising an amazing event, and it was in a great location. And thanks to Arts Taunton for enabling this to happen. Taunton really does have a lot of talent. Finally, I'd like to report on my successful visit to Rome to take part in the 8th World Art Games International Festival. I hasten to add that this visit was funded by myself and not Taunton Town Council, but I went there on behalf of Taunton to invite the artists and co-presidents of the World Art Games to hold their 9th festival in Taunton. Normally they hold the festival in capital cities, but I gave my presentation in the Medina Art Gallery near the centre of Rome. It's very near the Colosseum, an historical centre, and I was supported by Richard Holt from Kick Kick and president of the Chamber of Commerce, and artist Janet Glinsmith, who's representing the artists at Fluke House, who are also members of the World Art Games. The wonderful outcome is that the World Art Games 9th Festival is coming to Taunton next September. Artists, all kinds of artists, literary, performance artists, painters, musicians from all over the world, from South Korea and Argentina, are hoping to take part, and we've already had 30 inquiries. So it'll be very exciting, and it's a great opportunity for Taunton. And I hope that Taunton Town Council will do what it can to support what is a fantastic opportunity to put Taunton on, to make Taunton a global centre for arts and culture. Because that's one of our aims, isn't it? We want a vibrant culture. It's one of the stated aims of this council. Finally, Councillor O'Donnell has asked me to mention two people from Taunton who are going to maybe participate in represent Great Britain in the Olympics. One is Rebecca Wilde, who is a scull rower. She was born and grew up in Taunton, and she's going to represent the UK in this year's Olympics. The other one is Hannah Taunton. We don't yet know the outcome of her trial, but she may be representing the UK in Paralympics. I'd like to congratulate them both and wish them well. Thank you. Okay, the next thing is we need to have any communications from the leader of the council before you all fall asleep.
So thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's nice to know that we're keeping you very busy. So like you, I would like to just echo our thanks to the Committee of Armed Forces Day. It was another amazing event, and I really do think our town is at its best on days like that. And following the event, the Mayor, myself as leader, and Councillor Fernandez as our Armed Forces champion wrote to the committee on behalf of the council to thank them for all of their work in putting together a really special day for our town. And we've also set in motion a formalisation of our arrangement with the Armed Forces Day Committee, so that we can actually work more collaboratively as they arrange future events, and hopefully aspire to have the National Armed Forces Day here in Taunton. Hot off the press, I'd like to say thank you to our team who have achieved green flag status, retained it for 3 of our parks, So for Commentary Park, for French Weir and for Victoria Park, and also to thank the relevant Friends of and Action groups, so Friends of Commentary Park, Friends of French Weir and the Victoria Park Action Group for all of their work that they do on our parks and open spaces. It's a real achievement for us, the Town Council, to have kept that green flag status, and we should be really, really proud to have amazing green spaces in our town. On another green space, Taunton Green, lots of you will be aware of the unauthorised encampment that was recently on Taunton Green over a weekend. I'd like to also thank our town warden team for the quick clear up of that encampment and getting the park back to accessible and usable by local residents. I know they really appreciated the quick action, so thank you to our town wardens for that. And finally, you may be aware that we had a general election over the past few weeks, and I would like to just put on record our thanks on behalf of the council to Rebecca Powell, our outgoing MP, who represented Taunton for 9 years, for all of her efforts for our local community, and to congratulate our new Member of Parliament for Taunton and Wellington, Gideon Amos, who I'm sure will continue and advance and add even more to the work that Rebecca was doing previously. So congratulations to Gideon.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. Can we now hear from reports from the chairs of the committees, please? I think it's Councillor Bev Fernandez, Chair for Community in Place.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think it's going to be quite a bit from me. I seem to have drawn a short straw somewhere on here. So just we had the first meeting of the newly titled Community and Place Committee back in June. I'm just going to sort of have a quick look through the draft minutes. A lot of it was looking at the ways of working, because obviously it's just different things have moved around. Some things have gone over into operations and asset, and some things are staying with Community in Place. So it was, some of it was just sorting out what's in that. But one of the main things we did was we reviewed the Community in Place working groups. So we had a look at the several working groups that currently sat under the community services, and we agreed to separate what was the Civic and Twinning working group into two separate groups. So we created a new Twinning working group and created a Civic Task and Finish group, which I'll come on to in a minute. We also agreed to disband the Community Business and Public Relations Working Group, and also the Accessibility Events, Parks, Allotments and Open Spaces Working Group. But we're going to support the continuation of the other existing working groups that are currently sitting under Community in Place. So that's the Public Transport, Arts and Culture, the Climate and Ecological Action Plan. The terms of reference for the Civic Task and Finish group and the Twinning working group will follow, and we resolved to accept the new changes to those working groups. We also looked at the management and annual maintenance of the St James's Street planters. There's been one or two issues with particularly one of them where it was retaining too much moisture. So it just needs to be that. So we resolved to agree to, we're taking on the Town Council on the management and the annual maintenance of the St James's Street planters. The Community in Place manager, Craig Stone, provided a verbal update on the Priorswood Fun Fair. So that was just a verbal update from that, just to sort of in brief, the work that has been done so far with the communities, and also looking at, the fun fair for next year and measures that need to be taken in place. And also we've got a play equipment review going on, so that's ongoing. So there was a verbal update on that. There is currently looking at quotes for a consultant to come out and have a look at all of the play equipment, not just the accessible play equipment, all of the play equipment in all the parks, and that piece of work is ongoing with Craig. And I was going to make a note about the Green Flag Awards, but Councillor Deakin beat me to it. But again, the Community in Place Committee would also like to congratulate those parks and friends of groups for that particular thing. So that's me finished for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. Unfortunately, Councillor Rob Isaacs isn't here to report on the grants committee meeting. I don't know if Councillor Packer Hughes were able to say something. Thank you.
Yes, apologies. I was ill for that particular meeting, but I was very heavily involved in the planning and preparation work of all of the applications. And first of all, I would really like to extend my gratitude to Caroline Brown, the grants officer, who had done an enormous amount of work on these applications and precept applications. I believe today is her last day, so she is now no longer with the council. But I would just like to say on behalf of all of us what a fantastic job she has done. It's not an easy one. This round, I think we had 12 applications for small grants and sponsorships, all of which were successful. And we also saw the introduction of a venue grant to support larger venues with their venue costs. We have 3 applications from the Taunton Theatre Association, best known as the Brewhouse, Kikik, and the Museum of Somerset through the Heritage Trust. All of those applications were also successful. We awarded around £110,000 to those 3 organisations to help with essential running costs over the next 3 years, in part to covering some shortfalls due to the lack of funding at Somerset Council. We look forward to ongoing conversations with them in the future. It should also be noted, and thanks to Councillor Deakin for pointing it out, that with our small grants funds and sponsorships, with the venue costs fund, and also with the youth grants that we could be giving out this year and the next year, we give out over £250,000 of our money to support some absolutely fantastic organisations that make this town a wonderful place to live, and also support so many of our residents. And I just wanted to point out that it's a real achievement, and thank you to everyone who's involved in that.
Thank you, Councillor Packer Hughes. Yes, it is a real achievement. Well done. And I'd like to call on Councillor Beth Fernandez again as Vice Chair for Operations and Assets.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we held our first Operations and Assets Committee, met on the 11th of July 2024. Just a brief recap of the agenda items discussed. We looked at improving access restrictions to Prizewood Park to restrict unauthorised access. It was to do with the incursion after the fun fair, before the fun fair and after the fun fair. So that things to including the height barrier and retractable and lockable steel bollards. Large rocks to be sunken into the ground to prevent large vehicles fitting between them, and offset hoops to be to the secondary access from the pavilion to Eastwick Road. Obviously, you'll be able to sort of read more in detail when the minutes are finalised. We also looked at defibrillators. We agreed to purchase and install up to 9 defibrillators to be fitted at places frequented, such as the pavilions at Taunton Green, Hamilton Park, the Shed Cafe, Cannon Street car park. Many of the parks were obviously football pitches, so on and so forth. Also, bleed kits. We also agreed to look at the bleed kits, which this is an initiative that's been funded by Avon and Somerset Police, HeartSafe and the NHS South West. And these kits would be fitted to the installed defibrillators and maintained by Avon and Somerset Police. So it's an initiative that's actually coming from them. We also agreed to the provision of swim steps to Frenchbeard Park, so that they will be near coach, near the steps on the left-hand side. And we also had an update from Councillor Smith-Roberts on the work of the Public Toilets Working Group, which I believe Councillor Smith-Roberts will, do you want to do that bit? You could probably do that bit now, I suppose, because he was part of the working groups and that will follow. Is that all right, Madam Mayor? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a really positive meeting last week, and an update on what we're looking to do with the toilets in Taunton, in particular moving forward on Cannon Street toilets, because we've appointed a surveyor. They've been out measuring up. We've met as a working group, and like I said at the working group meeting, didn't know how long you could discuss toilets for and also discuss different things in great detail. But it's just about making sure that whatever we do through the work that we're doing on toilets, and it's not a toilets are expensive to do, so you're talking in excess of £100,000 to do Cannon Street, but we want to make it right. We want to make sure that the decisions that we take, most toilets don't get an upgrade for 25 years, and where you are looking at usage of around 15,000 people spending a penny every month, you want to make sure that actually they are fit for purpose, but they're also fit for the demographic of people that live in Taunton. So Cannon Street slightly excites Amber and I and the other working group members, because the space there perhaps doesn't just have to be individual toilet cubicles, but is there a space for a changing places toilet if we could access grant funding? Is there a space for a family room there, so that we don't have, as parents or carers, having to stand in a cubicle and try and manoeuvre your child in and out while everyone's trying to go to toilet, and there's a safe place for people to do, you know, baby changing. So those ideas are coming forward. The surveyors are hopefully going to get back to us in the next few weeks, and we would hope that we would have at least one toilet completed in the spring or just after Christmas this year. And then it's about looking around the other assets that we hold, Castle Green as an example. What can we do with that space, especially in particular if the mobility hub is being undertaken by Somerset Council and that's got toilets. So I kind of lift myself up into the air like a bird and look around Taunton and go, okay, is there a need for a toilet there, or is it needed anywhere else? And that perhaps may open up further discussions on Paul Street as an example, and just seeing what we can do and looking at our kind of single cubicle toilets at Hamilton Road and at Priors Road, and maybe giving them a refresh in the interim. But we're making sure that we work steady so that we ensure that we are spending money well and doing right for not just generations now, but future usage of toilets.
Thank you very much, Councillor Frederica Smith-Roberts. Have you already finished, Councillor Fernandez? No. Okay, please continue.
The Operation Assets Committee, yes, I finished that one, but it was just a couple of updates from the Civic Task and Finish group that met on Thursday the 11th. That was the first meeting. Again, the main aim of the group is to review the Taunton Town Council Civic Handbook, consider creating civic protocols, the selection process for the mayor and the Freedom of the Town Civic Awards, Mayor's Awards, Certificate of Thanks. So it's looking at that whole thing, and, you know, moving on towards the recommendations of the peer challenge. I noticed that's in there as well. So we're actually meeting one of those key recommendations with the Civic Task and Finish group. So we've got the members, we've all been sent away with our things to read. I believe we're meeting again in September to have a look and see if we can make those changes. And the other one to report back on is the Community Review Steering Group. That was yesterday. We had a Teams meeting with Catherine from the community. I always get this in a pickle, the CCS, Community. I've written it down somewhere, but anyway, you know what I mean, the CCS, Community Council for Somerset. I knew I'd written it down because I always mess it up. So the surveys, they've had 670 responses through in-person events and also through the online, which is quite a good response rate. They've all been received by the Community Council for Somerset, and they've gone through them. They've prepared a list of questions that they are looking to be asked, and one of the tasks for the steering group is to go through those questions and have a look through them to see what we can tease out and keep in, because there's a lot of information in those questions that some of it is they're a bit weighty.
So one of the things for the steering group is to actually go through them and actually cut them down a little bit. So yes, so I think that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fraschini.
Thanks, Mayor. Firstly, good to hear that defibrillators have been putting in all the football pitches, because we who run clubs have to take mandatory training on the use of defibrillators, and of course there aren't. So if we have to give life-saving treatment, unfortunately we're not able to at the moment. Not like I want to, by the way. But I just thought to ask, a couple of months ago, we had a discussion about assets that were going to be transferred, that should have been transferred at the first stage but weren't. Is there an update? I'm just talking about things like parks and bins and stuff. Is there an update on things like parks? Because obviously if we've got someone going around having a look at all of the parks, those parks that should be within our town council area that currently aren't, well, that are in the area but aren't our responsibility, some of which are 20 odd years old, will get missed. So I just wondered if there was an update.
Yes, please, Donna.
So there is some more ongoing discussions with a second tranche of devolution. We've got on the agenda tonight, obviously, to sign off the engrossments for the original transfers of assets that was coming over to us. We're looking to take on some additional parks and open spaces if that's what the council agrees. It will possibly be in April 26 after we've had a year's of running and delivering our own services for the spaces that we've currently got. So no decisions have been taken at the moment. It will be a council decision, and once we have all the full costings for those areas, we'll bring it into council to make that decision.
Thank you, Donna. Are there any other working groups who need to report back, please? Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I was just going to say in relation to the pop-up shop working group, we continue to meet. We are still struggling to find available units that are available to us, which is a positive story. I think I said this again last month, in the fact that it's good news for Taunton in general that trying to find retail is hard, but obviously for us it's a difficulty wanting to bring a pop-up shop here, but we will continue to hunt. And I know that when people are back from annual leave, we'll be able to move that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, can we receive any reports sorry, can I call on, I forgot something. Can I have any reports from outside bodies? Any volunteers, anybody who volunteers on an outside body and wants to report back? No? Okay, thank you.
There is a recommendation for a representative.
Oh, yes, yeah, thank you. Can I call on anybody to volunteer to put themselves forward to be the Taunton Town Council NALC representative? Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I was quite happy to take this on if no one else wanted to do it, because I'm happy to go and link in with national organisations.
Would anyone else like to do that? Okay, could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Packer-Hughes, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. And a show of hands, please. Okay, we hereby nominate Councillor Smith-Roberts as the Taunton Town Council NALC representative. Thank you. Are there any communications from Somerset councillors? As per 24(2) of the council standing orders, unitary councillors whose division covers Taunton's council area will be given an opportunity at each full council meeting to provide an update on matters arising from their division. The said update should not exceed 5 minutes in length.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and everyone for the opportunity to speak. If I overrun my 5 minutes, just tell me. I want to talk about two things really, parking in Robarton and a progress update on the Staple Grove development. So parking in Robarton has been an issue. We already have resident permit parking in Cyril Street, Fowler Street, Greenway Avenue, Grove Terrace, Herbert Street, Jubilee Street. Is that? Okay. Leslie Avenue, Maxwell Street, Railway Street, Raymond Street, Samuels Court and St Andrews View. We've recently carried out a review to see how that is going for residents because it takes a while to settle. 60% of respondents felt parking on their road was better. 48% felt that it was better on wider roads as well. 32% said it was the same and 19% said it was worse. So different views from people, but on the whole, that feels quite positive. There were also some changes suggested and the parking officers are reviewing those. One of the problems with residents parking is it causes displacement. So whilst it sorts the problem for the residents that it affects, it kind of shunts on parking from other places. But so we have had problems outside that area, and for that reason we've repeated a consultation with those neighbouring roads to see if they want to kind of change their minds because they didn't want to do it in the first place. And of those in Addison Grove in particular, we had a 72% positive response to the permit scheme. We need a 60% to be kind of clear. And so therefore, a road traffic order is going to be submitted. A letter should be sent out by residents by the end of July. And the plan actually is to include some of the other roads as well to take into account that knock-on effect that we'll get, and then there will be a review. So it's been kind of a bit of a long process, but we are getting there. So that's Robarton. Staple Grove development. The latest news is that there is a planning application for the wetlands as phosphate mitigation, and that application has been submitted to councils for the eastern side of the development. It's situated to the south of Corkscrew Lane between Wyndham Road and the Whitmore allotments in the east and Taunton Vale Sports Club in the west. It has to date been used for miscanthus, the kind of big elephant grass. There's a small area of grass between Wyndham Road and Milley Stream, which will remain untouched. And there'll be 5 shallow ponds and planting. So the idea is that that kind of that will kind of mitigate phosphates. There is still no application in for the east, however, but we do know that PM Asset Management has teamed up with Stonewater Housing, which is a housing association who specialise in affordable rental properties. So we sort of see that as quite a positive thing because it's often quite difficult to get the affordable housing in. But in a sense, there's still no kind of concrete application. So it's watch this space. And I was also pleased to attend the LCN, the Taunton LCN Highways group meeting. And I know Martin might want to talk about that later, but I just felt, I know that things like, you know, hedge trimming, dropped curbs, all of the, you know, white lines, all of those things are a big issue for residents and a frustration for us as well. And this was an opportunity to actually like meet the highways officers. It was really helpful actually, and I think I've actioned a few things that I haven't been able to action by email. So I see that as really positive. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Dant. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to give a report? Thank you, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of quick bits for me. Also about highways places. Actually, it's a bit of a theme at the moment. The first is just with regards to Nerrill's Primary School. I've met with the head teacher, governors and staff who have concerns about speeding and safety along Nerrill's Drive. So working with them collaboratively to see what we can put in place to help mitigate some of those concerns, including trying to locate one of the town council's speed indicator devices along that road and the highways team have identified some relevant sites, which is part of that visit. And I know there's not an impact into parking in nearby estates around the site. So thank Councillor Frascini for his efforts in engaging residents on that as well. It's something that we need to work together on. So an important issue. And the second is on Priorswood Road and the overbridge is included in the surface dressing programme from Somerset Council, which is welcome news, particularly as one particular patch just off the overbridge roundabout that really does need addressing, and that is at the moment planned for August, just checking on final details and arrangements for closures and things around that happening, but good news that that looks like it's being addressed in the near future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deakin. Councillor Harris.
Just really quickly, the crossing has been mentioned up to Advisory Park, and I understand some people are like, what on earth? But actually, when we went over the cross to the Armed Forces Day, when you would cross on top of the high street, they brought it home just how much easier and more accessible it is. So that work I'm told will be completed before the flower show. There'll be some overnight road closures to the 22nd and the 24th of July to enable that. Also, there's going to be bit of an issue along the footpath from French Weir into town, the one that ends at a dead bridge. That's going to be closed off between the 24th and the 24th of July and 1st of August. That is so that Caressa, who are Somerset Council's contractors for this, can remove the old Woodland Gardens footbridge. Probably lots of other things with my brain slightly dead at the moment. Can't think why.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Councillor Frascini.
Thank you, Chair. Just a plea really, just to the unitary councillors who are talking about highways. Sightlines, when the grass isn't cut, especially when it's like no mow May and things like that, they are, where they leave them on the corners is very dangerous. And I think we as a council should be saying something. So I'm particularly thinking about the one by the Dunelm roundabout. You cannot see what is coming. And I don't believe there is an excuse for not cutting those edges back, regardless of no mow May, whatever, because they're going to go out causing issues. So can we, if they're going to carry on with that policy, it's fine, I agree with it, but don't leave it growing on the edge of the roundabout. So they need to cut it like that so you can see when you get to the junction of the roundabout what is your sight lines need to be visible. So I just think you need to press that home because they're not.
Thank you, Councillor Frascini. Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I'll answer that point first, and then I'll just give a Taunton East update. In relation to grass verges, totally agree with you on some of your points, Giuseppe, in relation to some of the sightlines not being that good, especially the Dunelm one. My understanding is, and Dixie may correct me as well on this, is that the council, Somerset Council, don't operate what's called no mow May anymore. It's around looking at the ecological emergency in a wider concept, and that what they do look to do is cut and leave areas better so that biodiversity is improved, but it's about doing it all year round rather than just a month. There are elements where actually the verges, because of the interesting weather that we have in this area, that they are sometimes growing quicker than when they're due to be cut. And I guess there is a thing for all of us, both residents, town councillors, unitary councillors, to keep reporting, because if you report it, they will go out and do it, especially where they know that there is a safety issue. But they aren't out all the time looking per se for the issues. Same with potholes, if you report them, they will be done. But there is a point that we need to flag when there are certain areas that are being noticed by multiple people. In relation to Taunton East, I just want to give a shout out to Holcombe Baptist Church, who have organised monthly litter picks. I know that they happen across the town through people like Tidy Up Taunton and Show Us Your Rubbish. But Holcombe Baptist Church are running alongside Asda and McDonald's a monthly litter pick that goes out and looks after the area. I know that happens across lots of areas, but actually getting out and doing them does kind of, one, educate children, take them with you, but also around looking at actually seeing what people are throwing away, and just kind of keeping our streets clean. But that's where I intend to be.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree about the need to cut those grasses, because I've heard lots of people complaining, so it's very dangerous on those roundabouts. Yeah. Okay. Moving on then to the forward plan. I think we've all seen the copy of the forward plan, and are there any questions about it? Okay, we're all happy with it so far. Could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Packer Hughes. And the seconder, Councillor Connell. And could I have a show of hands, please? Sorry, Connor Solomon. Okay, yes, I declare that motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 11, the depot update. And can I call upon Operations and Assets Manager Paul Grant to provide the update? Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Madam Mayor. Evening, councillors. It's just an opportunity to give you an update on what is progressing with the depot, albeit the first stages rather slowly, whilst the legal process burdens us with losing a little bit of time. So for those that haven't seen it, this is the building, Cornish Way. There's an opportunity right above the door there to put some decent PTC branding on there and let people know that we've arrived. It's very accessible. It's just parallel to the Wellington Road. If you don't know it, roughly behind the SO service station. It already has a sensible ramp, giving access to the main entrance door for wheelchair access, etc. That's the other half of it, because there were vehicles parked in front of it when I tried to take the photo, so apologies, it's in two halves. So to the left of the main entrance is an up and over door, and that gives vehicular access to quite a large compound in behind, sufficient for 18 to 20 vehicles. It's nice and secure. There are no alternative accesses into the back. One has to go through the building, which, to be fair, loses a little bit of space, but we can make up for that in other ways. There are 5 bays at the front, outside of the cross-hatched area, which needs to be kept clear for access. If my screen we can move on, that would be really useful. So internally, it was previously used by one of the van hire companies, and they just had it as an office, and the thoroughfare was used to take vehicles through to a cleaning bay and then out into the compound. So the proposal is to look at mostly storage in this area. There is a ground floor office. There are toilet facilities, which we'll come on to in a minute. But essentially that's what it looks like. That's the main office area. And beyond those 5 windows that we see in the partition wall is the thoroughfare through to the back compound. So this area is air conditioned with heat pumps, which are fairly modern. So there should be no need for additional supplementary heating in that area. And heat pumps are quite an effective way currently of delivering the heat and cooling when it gets very hot as well. Next slide, Marcus, please. That's a look both ways along the thoroughfare to the back. So there's a roller shutter door at the front and at the back of the building. And that's quite wide. So there's an opportunity to have a narrower access for vehicles, but also put some charge points in for mowers and hold some of that equipment in that area as well. Next one, please. Going out into the back compound, there's a covered wash bay, which used to house a pressure washer. There's a grid in the floor, which we're doing some checks on to make sure it's as suitable as an oil trap and dirt trap for cleaning down our own vehicles and our grounds equipment when it gets there. And then there's a couple of views of the rear compound showing how enclosed it is. There's an opportunity there to put some sort of cover over the vans and the charging points, and that's within the scope of a project that we're looking at the moment. Thank you. Great photograph there, not of great interest, but there are 3 toilets. The plan is to refurb those and just bring them up to modern standards, particularly in terms of the accessible toilet, because we will have access open to the public and a little meeting space and a little reception space. So it's important that we're presenting ourselves well in terms of people that visit. So the existing layout of the building itself looks like that. It's going to change a little, but essentially that's what's there. There's an office, kitchen, DDA toilet, 2 other toilets at the front. So the front is to the right of that diagram, and that thoroughfare you can see going through from front to back provides quite a lot of storage within that space. That's a draft proposal for the ground floor. It's changed now since. I received some others today, but didn't have time to put them in the presentation. But we're working with E4B, who did the designs for the office in Dean House, so that we align the depot in terms of style and present it to staff in the same way, so that nobody feels that they're any different and everybody can use the space. Next one, please. That's a proposed mezzanine, and we have had a surveyor have a look at the steelwork to make sure that the existing steel frame of the building can take the loading of second floor. I've just gone back to the letting agent today to see if we could get permission from Somerset to drill a couple of core holes into the concrete to substantiate the weight bearing capacity of the floor and the framework. So I'm just waiting on a response on that one. Next, please. So we're also looking at reusing stuff where we can. So the desks that you currently see in the office downstairs won't be used in the new office layout, but we can use them in the depot. We're looking at security of the vehicles and equipment. Although it's in a very safe area and it's the building itself is well protected, we'll have alarms, we'll have CCTV installed in there. We're also looking at an auto tag system where each driver is issued with a tag, and he, in order to take a vehicle or a piece of equipment, has to insert his tag in the board, and that in turn releases the key for that vehicle. So there's control, and we know who's got which vehicle at any time, which is part of our duty of care. We need to make some changes to the fire alarm to suit the new layout, and intruder alarm as well. And we're getting quotes currently for putting access control on both the main entrance and the front roller door, so that we have that extra security barrier for people taking vehicles out. So there'll be an audit trail of who's opened the door and at what times. And as I just touched on, the oil dirt separated to the vehicle washdown is an important factor there. Now the last one, which hasn't appeared on the slides for some reason, which my esteemed colleague to my left did put in, and I saw him do it just before the meeting, and that's that we're looking at options around solar PV being mounted to the roof of the depot, and or the little carport shelters that will protect the vehicles out of the back. When we're looking at EVs and we're looking at charging them ourselves, it makes sense to use the sunshine to do that whilst it's there. So those options, there are 3 inquiries out at the moment to look at that, to see how we can maximise the sustainability of the building going forward. It's a great opportunity to do that, and with such extensive modifications within it, and looking at the vehicle strategy as well, it's got to make sense to look at that as part of the package. Next slide. So the next steps for us are E4B to issue a draft final proposal for consideration, which they've now done today. That proposal to go out to tender to be priced against for carrying out the works. We're chasing the solicitors, and Marcus has chased them up this week. And as soon as we get some keys, we'll arrange visits for those that are interested in having a little look. And we'll also assess in terms of the public toilet cleaning teams that are to be tupied across to us, We're looking at what works we can safely carry out in that regard before the depot is finished, because I'm conscious of times, and with the works, they might overrun beyond that extra time scale. So we want to make sure that we can get people active and start using it as much as we can, as soon as we can, even though all works may not be finished at that time. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. I saw one of the considerations was CCTV to be held in the event. Will we also have like on offline access in case or the internet there does go down for some reason?
Yes, thank you. The CCTV, we're looking at cloud-based storage for that, so that it can be accessed from anywhere. We could dial into it, and those recorded images are kept off-site, so that somebody doesn't break in and nick the equipment and off they go. We've got to make sure that we meet our regs in terms of GDPR in that regard as well.
Councillor Evans. Not a question, a comment. I'm just really pleased with the progress here, and I'm just so relieved and happy that all of the net zero carbon climate considerations are kind of being embedded throughout this project. I think it's music to my ears that you're thinking, this is actually becoming part of business as usual for us, which I think is really heartening. It's not something we have to kind of ask probing questions about or jump up and down about. It seems to be becoming absolutely the norm, which is great. I think we as a new council absolutely can do net zero really, really well. So thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Preston.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered what the expected total cost of the town looks like.
Thanks for that. At the moment, we don't know until we've agreed what the specification looks like. We look at options around the mezzanine in particular, because we're looking for future proofing in the first instance, and obviously there's agreed budgets to do that. But if it means that we look at value engineering or cutting back on quality, then it may be that we look at only part completing elements of that. And the mezzanine level gives us a chance to do that, because as you saw in that proposal diagram, there were 18 desk spaces up there. Now, we may not need 18 desk spaces, but what we're looking at is future proofing it so that it can become a workplace the same as the house offices for staff that may live at that side of town and want to cut their commute down. And obviously that then falls in line with our carbon reduction aspirations as well. So there's lots of little elements, but there's flexibility around that, but it's to be done within an agreed budget, which is already budgeted for within this year's finance.
Thank you. Councillor Tully.
Yeah, you just said the very thing on one. Why 18 desks? Most of the people working out of that depot should be out on the road, not be sitting behind desks. And we're going to answer to the people, they're going to watch us through the office, a new office building here. They're going to ask us the very same question. Why so many desks there? Why many people are you expecting to actually doing clerical work there?
Yes, so I'm not expecting 18 people to work from there. It's a draft proposal from a space designer, and we're shaping that with them to suit our needs. The chances are much more of the space will be storage space rather than office space, but they've gone for a worst case scenario draft proposal, which we can then cut back and refine. The proposal is that we start looking at keeping in stock some larger items that we can't currently, such as spare bins and benches and all the stuff, so we can respond quickly to residents' complaints and damages and things like that, get them swapped out quickly from our stocks and have the benefit of that purchasing power up in advance and the quantities that we can then purchase.
Sorry, I think it's Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. The building, I know which building it is, and actually it was very highly secured, and the business used to run there. So why are we spending extra money on it? Isn't there a security system there now in place?
Yeah, there's a security system that covers the offices. That's about it. The compound is secure, but would require CCTV coverage because there's a lot of value of vehicles that would be stored there. And also we would want to make sure that we're alerted to anything that might happen to those vehicles overnight with them being on charge. We want to eliminate any risks associated with EVs, of which there have been rare ones, which have hit the press and social media. And it's important with a change of the structure within the building that each of those areas is covered. So we're just adapting the existing systems to facilitate that security, that extra level of security. But it is quite nice. It's a nice, safe building. It's got protective barriers at the front. It should be minimally problematic. However, we want to make sure that it's right to start with.
Councillor Simon.
I just want to say thanks so much for putting in the extra work to share some plans this evening. It looks really, really good. And to be honest, I think it's going to really push us on the right lines to actually accomplish what we want to achieve each month. Because, like I keep saying, you know, what wardens are actually achieving on a day-to-day basis at the moment out of an office downstairs and from storage unit, it's really, really good. So thank you again for that. Also, I will say, obviously, when we plan on going with the ecological side of things, like solar panels and obviously electronic vehicles and other things, I would like to just keep in mind, and I know the battery kind of tools aren't, they're nearly there for industrial, but if we can try to keep on the battery side as much as we can instead of going on petrol, then I think that's a benefit as well. So yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to say. But yeah, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Councillor Solly. Yes, we're looking at other equipment. We have a couple of representatives from ground care companies and suppliers that are coming in to visit us next week to assess some of our open spaces, and we're looking at battery options for that type of equipment as well. So it's a theme that we want to continue with, and it's a one-off opportunity to get on the right track and build on it for the future.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much for your update. I think next up we've got Marcus, who's going to tell us about the Glen Gardens Bridge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, councillors. So yeah, just a brief update on Goodlands Gardens Bridge for you. Just a brief background slides there. So obviously the bridge has been closed, the existing structure has been closed since November 22. There have been a number of structural surveys done in that time, and the latest one commissioned by Somerset West and Taunton Council, as you can see, on January 2023. That concluded the existing structure was beyond economic repair, and the asset ownership and replacement. Obviously, since this council's come into existence, there was a motion taken forward by Councillor Ellis last July, which asked council to write to Somerset Council, and there have been further such resolutions since then by the Community Services Committee last July, which looked at this. Council again back in October last year, which commissioned a feasibility study by WSP. And then most recently in April 2024, where we considered the feasibility study and delegated this project to the Plan Development Transport Committee to develop and progress, and £10,000 was earmarked to conduct foundation testing and a topographical survey as recommended by WSP. So the WSP study, as said, it gave 4 options for the replacement of the superstructure: steel truss, fibre reinforced polymer, steel beam and timber composite and timber. And then, as I said, there were 3 recommendations for the next stage: which I'm reporting back to you tonight on. So the topographical study has been conducted by local firm Lewis Brown Surveyors, and we've had the reports from that back. As you can see, an extract of this. Why is the topographical useful? It provides detailed information about the terrain and features of the land where the bridge will be constructed. It maps things like elevation changes and contours of the land. It identifies existing natural features and man-made structures, such as utilities that could impact on the bridge design and construction. There are also considerations in there around flood risk assessment, soil and subsurface conditions, and alignment and positioning. So one of the things that they were able to do before the bridge is being taken down in the middle of August was scan the existing structure. So we have a map of that. Should council wish to go for a similar replacement style. So the ground investigation work is scheduled for Friday the 26th of July. So they're doing it in between where the closures are happening as part of the removal work that Carissa are doing, which is quite convenient. So they'll be providing a subsurface investigation associated report, foundation depth investigation, and a structural investigation and associated report. They've given some information which I've included there about the underlying geology, which is the solid geology of the Mersey at Mudstone and Britain. They'll also be conducting a geotechnical desk study, and they'll provide general recommendation regarding likely engineering abnormals, including preliminary foundation and pavement design recommendations for the proposed development. So these are all really important things that we need to consider when if we're looking to commission a replacement structure. They'll also be doing some dynamic sample boreholes. So as part of that single day's work, exploratory ground investigations, including a hand shear vein pocket penetrometer testing. And they'll be giving us a detailed engineering description of any soils encountered. They'll also be doing some hand hitting on either side of the bridge, but anything that they do, they will be recapping with appropriate concrete once they've done some of the digging. Soil samples will be taken away and tested as appropriate to determine their engineering properties. So that will provide us with a classification test and sulfate pH test. And on completion of the intrusive works on the 26th, an interpretive report will be prepared for the site, which we can share with you when it comes in. And then recommendations for further works or mitigation measures required if so. So as I say, that will really inform us for the next step. As I said, the existing structure is due for removal imminently, and we expect that to be completed by the 15th of August. That is the schedule that's been provided by Somerset Council and their contractors, Carissa. As you can see there on the schedule, the Friday the 26th is when our foundation survey that we've commissioned has been slotted in there to enable that to happen, which is really positive. I've also attached to the agenda pack, you'll notice a desktop exercise conducted by Caroline Brown, our grants officer, who's, as I said, final day with us today. So that's really good. Look around at some of the potential opportunities there are to supplement the commissioning of this with some grant funding, and not just looking from existing precept. There could be other pots out there that we could apply for, which could help with this if this is something that the council wishes to proceed with. So I've also provided a bit of detail on the waterways strategy work that I've been involved with, which does make reference to the Goodland Garden. So this has been developed by Somerset Council as part of the Garden Town work. And they do mention Goodland's Garden as part of character area 3 of the town centre. And obviously Goodland Garden interfaces with the river, and they'd like to raise local awareness of the significance of water to the town's historical success and ambitious future. And as one of their combined projects in there is the potential plan for a new bridge on the site. So that's been a really good process working with Somerset Council. There's been a lot of collaborative working with stakeholders. So that's also helped in terms of this project as well, meeting those people from the Environment Agency, canals and river trusts, and building those relationships to work on this potential project as well. One of the things I wanted to flag was the waterways strategy. There's talk of design principles. So obviously that will be important to take into account if and when we consider design for a replacement bridge, that it will need to accord with that, and working closely with the placemaking team at Somerset Council to guide us and support us on that. So, as I say, the third recommendation from WSP as part of the feasibility study was a meeting with the stakeholders that we've met as part of the waterway strategy. We've had positive responses so far from Somerset Council, the Environment Agency, the Independent Somerset Quality Review Panel, and the Canal and Rivers Trust. The issues they've raised so far are the drawings of how the bridge will interface with existing flood defences. The Environment Agency also keen that any new bridge can't hinder any standard protections in the area to facilitate new bridge design, and they would like the draft design, if and when we get to that point, reviewed by the quality review panel. I'm hoping to set up a meeting of those people that have come forward in the next month. And then just a brief slide there on sort of the indicative next steps. So obviously we want to hold that early engagement with stakeholders, a workshop. We'd like to engage with potential surveyors to understand their ability to scope and oversee projects such as this. So obviously we've got good relationships with existing surveyors on a number of projects that the town council has been working on, such as the toilets. But obviously companies like Fairhurst who are doing the foundation testing for WSP as part of the feasibility. So these are all firms that could potentially be interested in a project such as this. Obviously, we'll continue to report back to the Planning, Development and Licensing Committee with overview and direction on next steps into the autumn. There will obviously need to be a decision of full council required at some stage if this is something that council wishes to proceed with commissioning. It will be north of £500,000, as indicated in the feasibility study. And then potentially, obviously, if approved, to appoint a chosen surveyor to carry out the tender for the design and build project. And there will probably likely need to be a tender exercise to appoint the surveyor, because their fees would likely be a percentage of the total contract value, which would be over our tender threshold, £30,000. So that's looking like more early 2025. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
Marcus, God, it's very complicated, isn't it? Very involved, so thank you for keeping the rest of it all. I think it would just blown my mind. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this, aren't there? So you reckon there's going to be a report, this next report, following the works and investigations on the 26th. When do you think we should have that? August, mid-August, end of August, sooner, and then will we be having regular updates before it comes to back to full council for decisions through planning?
Thank you, so yeah, one of the advantages of planning, development and licensing meeting monthly is that we can provide those updates on a regular basis. So yeah, hopefully the foundation reports come through fairly swiftly after the conclusion of the work on the 26th. It's good to see the topographical survey come back very, very quickly following that. The work was done. Thank you.
Councillor Preskin.
Okay. Two questions. First one, if this new bridge is built, who's going to own the asset?
It would be a town council asset. If we are totally funding the replacement, then the asset would be one of ours to maintain and look after going forward and be our asset. Thank you.
And the second question is there still plans from Somerset Council to build a bridge to only goes up the road? Up the bit and up the road.
Yes, the Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I believe the current plan for widening the existing bridge, the one that goes across to the brew house, originally, engineers said that wasn't possible, but it is now looking at that to widen it to make it TM1 something compliant, so basically disability compliant and active travel compliant, so that you don't have to go up on the zigzag, but it's doing work there, and it's using government grant money that came from Future High Streets Fund to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Any other? Councillor Stanhope.
Yeah, it's actually on the back of the other bridge at Morrison's, House Bridge. There has been quite a bit of controversy about that. I've seen online from local residents, and it did appear at the plan recently. Has that the proposal for that bridge gone through I'm guessing the same groups that we're now looking at with this new bridge? And because to widen it and also put in the large new ramps, I would have to consider it from a flood point of view. Has that all been taken into consideration? And if it shouldn't really be any different to the new bridge, because if we put in a new bridge, it'll be the same footings essentially as the old bridge, if it's sense.
Councillor, would you like to answer that?
Your question makes sense. I would assume so, because it's all following the same process, but I will write and find out from the team just to confirm the process that's done if I'm not close enough to it, if they know them more than I do.
Councillor Toots.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't sure if I heard correctly, but you showed a slide that suggested other stakeholders, particularly around the garden town. Does that mean that there's potential other funds or not? So it wouldn't have to be a completely Taunton town asset if other money was available from the garden town pot? Did I misconstrue that?
Thank you, Councillor Toots. No, so the reference to the garden town was more in terms of there's been a piece of work that's commissioned under that, the waterway strategy, and it's sort of a bit timely that a lot of the same people involved in that have been useful as engaging with the stakeholders. But in terms of funding, I think we had the conversation pretty early on with Somerset Council and was told that there are no funds available to help support this ambition. I know that they said the active travel funds are committed, like you say, on the other bridge that's coming forward. So unfortunately not. I mean, we can keep asking the question as time goes on, but yeah, not from Somerset Council, I don't believe, and the Garden Town Fund. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
I think it's just worth making the point that out there in the community, this is a bridge that really, really matters. The Woodland Gardens footbridge, not so much the other one. This is the one that people care about, still care about it, people miss it, people need it and want it back. And I think it would be amazing if in due course, we as the Taunton Town Council actually invest in creating a key piece of infrastructure, which is absolutely vital to any future waterways strategy, any inward investment strategy, any joining up blue and green space strategy, anything, reviving Taunton strategy at all. So I think it's just important that the people out there are still very, very interested in this and very, very keen that this happens.
Thank you, Councillor Owens. Yes, Councillor Deakin.
Thank you. I'm just thinking through, thank you, Marcus, for all the work on this. It's a huge amount, so thank you for the comprehensive update. We're seeing our community engagement as we move forward, and there's two parts to that. The first is, although it's been well covered in the local press that the bridge will be removed and that we're looking at options, I suspect there'll be for a chunk of people, they won't realise that until the fencing goes up and the action starts to happen on the bridge and they start to worry. I wonder if we could work with the contractor to put some posters or some signage up on some of the heritage hunting I assume they'll have, just saying, talks like that are exploring options, keep in touch through these checks. I just think something to show that we are working on it, we're seeing what can be done, just to re-emphasise our presence as well, I think, in this project would be worthwhile. And the second is if we do get to the point where there's something feasible that we want to progress, I'd love to explore how we can engage the community in the design and being able to own a part of the bridge and having some sort of input so that it really does become a bridge, as Carol says, linking our communities together, but yet that people can have a say, whether that's name plaques, whether that's something just with it to make it so that people can really feel their ownership of that as an asset, as a town. I think that would be wonderful.
Any other comments, questions, Councillor Toots?
Just to add to Councillor Deacon's comments there, I know that we had very good feedback from the rowing club regarding the revamping, redoing of the town centre bridge. They said that the contractors were in regular, they're just assuming, or to add to that, that we let the users of the river know potentially as well.
Thank you. It's Councillor Stanhope.
Just one thing, quick one from me. Is there any way we can push back on the funding from active travelling? Because I mean, there's such an essential bridge, which the widening and the work that's being proposed that the bridge further up, further down the river, and which seems to be causing a lot of controversy with local residents. There's a huge amount of support for the Midlands Garden Bridge. Surely the funding, some of the funding can be transferred? Is it not possible?
Councillor Evans.
I've argued that one for months banging against the brick wall. Many of the presidents banged their head against certain brick walls. It's a brick wall. You would think, wouldn't you? That it would be more a priority, but it isn't. So it's literally down to us.
Any other comments, questions?
I know I'm not allowed, but can I just make one observation? I could cure all this. All we need to do is ask the Romans to invade again, and it'll last 1,000 years.
Right, so that takes us on to John, who's going to give us an update on the town for council's office.
So yes, we just wanted to provide a quick update in regards to the office, which I emailed out to everyone yesterday to say that the lease has been approved by Somerset Council, which is fantastic news. We are all geared up and ready, and work starts on Thursday, so there's no time wasted. So all the documents are being signed and sent back off. So we just wanted to touch base on some of the concerns that you've raised when we discussed it in the June council meeting. So the few points that we've got is the chamber layout. Obviously, you was keen to ensure that the horseshoe shape was retained. The solution to the power to the desks. So we've looked at several options for that, which we will take you through some slides afterwards as well. The small meeting room, it was originally going to be a glass pod, but that's now going to be an actual built-in room, but obviously still DDA compliant as well. And there's going to be some additional storage for the safes and for some of the mayor's day-to-day stuff that is required, because we're unable to access it on weekends if the mayor's covered in at the moment. So we just run through a few slides with you as well, and I wanted to update you on the budget. With the report, I'm sure you've seen it, we've managed to make some considerable savings on the furniture. So when we had the original proposals of costings, we're looking to save over £50,000 by sourcing some of it ourselves and purchasing second-hand furniture, which has been really, really good. So a nice big saving has been made on that. Hopefully we will be in sync with the slides behind me. So one of the things that we are definitely having is 2 additional screens in the new chamber, so we can see what's happening behind. So we'll try and work together with that one. So this slide is the overall theme and design of the actual office space upstairs. You'll see we've gone for obviously the corporate colours. There's some wallpaper which will be the entrance, used within the entrance as well, which will obviously shape for when people arrive at the office, they know that they're in Taunton Town Council's area. We've had some discussion with a lot of the staff, so they've been engaged with the furniture that that we were looking at. I think everybody's really pleased with the overall design and scheme of it. There are some paper plans, which I don't know if at the end or if you want to take a break to go through and have a look at those. They're all laid out on the table for you. So this is the overall shape of the office and the new chamber, which we obviously put in to keep the U-shaped for members. What we're going to do is there's I think there's space for 42 desks, and we minimised the desks in there to be able to get the layout correct. But there's going to be 32 position desks on the main basis, but we can add to it because we're going to be using the same tables in the meeting rooms as well, so we can expand on it as and when we need to, and obviously scope on the different provisions and facilities that we've got that we can host within that meeting room to make sure it's flexible. So not just for us as a town council to hold our council meetings in, so it can be used for friends of groups and different organisations within the town, so it's providing another community space for people which they can look to hire out as well. Furniture procurement, we've gone through loan suppliers and online suppliers, second-hand suppliers. Some of the desks that we are purchasing are coming from Somerset Council, so we are obviously reusing stuff as and where we can. We did make some contact with local furniture suppliers, but we haven't been that successful in it. Therefore, we have had to look further afield in some instances. But we wanted to make sure we had some high quality and durable items at reasonable prices, which have been identified and agreed within the budget. And like I said before, there has been a substantial saving in the furniture that we're looking to purchase. New layout for the chamber. So you've got the standard layout, which I said, obviously what's going to be set up as a day-to-day basis, and then we've got the facility for a larger meeting space which we can hold, for staff meetings or any of the events within the town that we need an area for. These are just additional table layouts, so just making sure that the space is versatile and can be used for the different organisations that may want to use it. Chamber desks, so we've gone for a local supplier. They come with a 5-year guarantee, and they can be manoeuvred and stored. And we will have some modesty panels put onto the desk as well. Like I say, we're going to purchase 42 of them, but only 32 will be made out at any one time, and the other 10 will be in the slightly smaller meeting room, which will create a boardroom layout in there. The chairs, just to mention on the chairs, so we're going to purchase the same chairs for all of the meeting room spaces and the chamber, so we can use them and enhance the space as required. Charging systems. So we've gone backwards and forwards and looked at a few different options. So there's the option to obviously have the floor plates in the chamber, but then sometimes that causes issue depending on how you've got the layout of the room to how we can use it to the best abilities. So we've looked at these portable charging systems and purchasing some of those, which will go onto the desks. So it will negate the need to have all the wires that go across the room. It will make it more flexible, and they will be retained in the council, and we don't go on charge. So they're very powerful. They've got the ability, I think, it's to charge 2 laptops fully in a short period of time, along with your phones as well. And it's something that we would own when we would move around, depending as to where we needed them. Naming the meeting rooms. So we're looking to run a survey poll with the team and the councillors for the new rooms. We've got some ideas that's come in as already. So the mayors of Taunton, historical council Taunton council figures, and the twin towns as well as an option, local streams, local wildlife and local parks. But that's something that we'll be looking to put out as a poll and a survey for the members to put in suggestions, so we can look to name all of the areas so people are aware what meeting room is what. Key dates: Tuesday the 16th of July. Today contracts have been signed. Work, as I say, starts on Thursday. 22nd of July, actually the builders come in, so the prep work starts on Thursday and the builders come in on Monday. We are aiming for a handover of the space for the 5th of September. So ideally we're going to have our next full council meeting in our own chamber, but
we have, make sure we've got a fallback plan just in case there's issues with IT. And obviously we're going to have the contractors coming back in for any snagging work that's needed before full sign off. And 30th September, the current lease ends in our office downstairs. So whatever happens, we need to be finished and good as of there. That's the update. So does anybody have any questions? No. Councillor Deacon.
It's just a very quick small one. On some of the chamber layout designs, it looks like one of the desks was very close to the pillar. How will that work in practice? Will the person who sat right in front of the pillar just be staring at a pillar for the entire meeting?
If there's enough space around that somebody wouldn't have to necessarily sit in that space. The way that they've done it is, you can see that the back, what would be this table is off centre, so it doesn't affect the sign of, they've looked at all the visions, and so there's a clear sign line forward going through there. Any other questions? Okay, can I propose that we just have a 10-minute break? Sorry, Councillor Evans.
This is picking up on something I asked before when we discussed it the last time. But have we had any more information on Somerset Council? Do we have a comprehensive information about the sort of carbon performance of the office, the section of office that we are leasing out in relation to the rest of the building, so that we know exactly what our carbon footprint for the Dean House office is, so that we've got all of that information? Have they given us enough information that we can, what's what?
Yeah, I did ask that question before. We did provide the information. I'll make sure that it's sent to you if you haven't already had it. So yeah, they did provide it to us. Councillor John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Love the design. One thing I'm concerned about the last couple of days is the lift seems to be out of operation more often than it's in operation. What do we do in this situation when it is out of order? And are we going back to anyone to see why the lift keeps going out of order?
Mark is made to have some conversations in regard to the lift, so he'll update you on that.
Thank you, Councillor Donald. Yeah, obviously the lift being out of action most recently for quite a long time was a disappointment to us. We did raise with the facilities manager of the Somerset Council, and she did, express that they were frustrated as well, and they were getting the contractor to come back in and fix it with the replacement part that was needed apparently. It has today come back on stream, and we have had a conversation with our solicitor about negotiating the lease, whether there's, I've asked that it's specifically identified as a service aspect in our lease, and also whether there's potential to put in a provision around recharging back if the time taken to repair it is taking too long. We could go and do that ourselves. So that's the current negotiations, but yeah, it's something we share as a frustration.
Anything else? Okay, can I propose that we have a 10-minute break and it'll be at 10:02. And Donna has very kindly put out plans of the office layout behind you on the table there, which you can all have a look at during this time. And we'll meet again at 10:02. Okay, thank you. Thank you.